Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, you'll notice I ran and I skipped up here to see if I could fall flat on my face, and I did not do that. How many people here are from Concord? Woo! Well, for the rest of you, welcome to New Hampshire's capital city. Welcome to the small city with a great big heart. Welcome to the city that's in the top 25 of best places from which to work remotely, and is this is true. Right. And also one of the top 10 U.S. state capitals in which to live. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here tonight, and it is my great pleasure to speak concisely and shortly and to introduce you to our outstanding Congresswoman from the 2nd Congressional District, Maggie Goodlander.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I didn't expect you to make a promotion for Concord at the outset, but respect. You're doing your job. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. The lights are a little bright, so I can't see all of your faces, but I'm really grateful to you. I want to say first and foremost, I want to thank you for being here this afternoon, because it's my job to be here. I work for you, but I can work best for you and do this job best when I hear from you directly, and there is no substitute for showing up, especially in a time like this. You know, so one thing you can count on me for, my grandfather always said to me, your word is your bond. And when I took an oath to support and protect this document, which I carry with me everywhere I go, when I took this oath, and I've taken this oath before, but when I took this oath to represent you in the people's house, I mean it, and I'm working every single day. Thank you. I'm never gonna sugarcoat it. This is a time where people are feeling, I've been traveling all over the state, hearing from people of all ages, and if I had to sort of distill what I'm hearing into 3 things, the first is holy anger. And I know a lot of you are feeling that. And I say holy anger. My mom, Betty, who I think is here this afternoon, she went to divinity school. She was a hospital chaplain, and she taught me this concept of holy anger. So what is holy anger? Holy anger is seeing our veterans being attacked. The men and women who literally put their lives on the line for us. And I know we have veterans with us this afternoon. Thank you for what you've done for our country. We have a sacred obligation to support you and to give you what is yours. And the Veterans Administration is under attack. That gives me holy anger. When I see the Social Security Administration, hardworking men and women who work there, who are being fired arbitrarily, capriciously, indiscriminately, and when people, an unelected billionaire who's sitting in the Oval Office, who doesn't know a thing about Social Security, calls it the biggest Ponzi scheme the world has ever known, that is nonsense, and that makes me angry. When we see the biggest cuts to Medicaid in American history, Medicaid is on the chopping block. Social Security is on the chopping block. The stakes have never been higher. And what I'm also hearing is a lot of pain. At the same time that we're seeing the attacks on our government, a weaponization of our government against the people themselves, people are feeling a lot of pain. The price of eggs, it's up 59% over this past year. We're in the midst of a housing crisis. It's the cornerstone of the American dream, having a home. It's never been harder in the United States of America. I want to get to work to lower housing costs. I want to get to work to solve our child care crisis. And I was just saying a minute ago, I'm grateful to the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute for giving us a number to explain the costs of the high price of child care. Raise your hand if you know someone who's paying too much for child care. The cost of health care. People are feeling pain. People are feeling uncertainty too. You know, yesterday I was at the shipyard in Portsmouth. The men and women who work there are doing some of the hardest jobs our country could ever ask of anyone. They are hard jobs, and they're waking up every day. They don't know if they're going to be coming to work tomorrow. Same is true for our air traffic controllers. People are feeling deep uncertainty. I hear it from small businesses who are trying to navigate a world in which we're on the cusp of a trade war, or we're in a trade war with our neighbor to the north, Canada. You know, when we're in a situation where Canada is being treated the same way that we're treating China, Houston, we have a problem. So these are the things I'm hearing, and what I want you to know, and I said I was going to be brief and be sincere and be seated. This is the advice that FDR gave to all of us who hold a microphone, because I really want to hear from you. But I just want to say what it means to me to live up to my oath, to support and defend this Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. It means using every single tool available to me. The tools that I have in the Congress, and look, I played a lot of cards growing up. We've been dealt a really difficult hand, but we've got to work, and we've got to work together to use every tool at our disposal. We have the narrowest majority in the House of Representatives in a generation. 5 votes. It's never been harder to count to 5, but I'm never going to stop trying, because that's what you deserve. We have our courts, and you know, one of the things that surprised me about Congress, there aren't as many lawyers as I thought there would be. And I'm mercifully the second lawyer in my family. My younger brother, John, was the first, so all the lawyer jokes went to him. But raise your hand if you're a lawyer. Okay, well, not many lawyers, but we need you all, because the courts, we have 3 co-equal branches of government in this country. The courts are an essential backstop. I'm part of a task force in Congress, a task force that's looking at more than 100 cases across the country. Each of these cases are the stories of real people who are feeling real harm from decisions that are being made at the White House and in Congress. And I'm using every tool we have. We have got to take this fight to the courts. We've got to take this fight to Congress. But above all, it's going to take us working together. There's no substitute for showing up. It's my job to be here. I'm so grateful to you for being here. I really look forward to hearing from you directly, because I can do this job best. We're going to have to all work together. You know, this document begins with 3 words, we the people, and that's what we all are here. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to your questions. I'm going to introduce Senator Tara Reardon, who is our partner. I really believe governing is a team sport, and never has it been more important for legislators at every level of government to work together, and I'm so glad to be working with you, Tara. We have devised a bingo-like system just to make sure everyone has an equal chance to ask a question. So I'm going to let you explain it, Tara.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Tara Reardon. I'm the state senator for Concord, Bow, and Hopkinton. So from the hands that I saw a minute ago, most of you are my constituents. I have the honor today of moderating the questions that you have for Representative Goodlander. And I will tell you, we traveled the campaign circuit and overlapped a lot this year, and it was my pleasure to learn more and more about Representative Goodlander and how smart she is. So I can't wait to hear the questions and the responses to it. So when you came in, there were blue raffle tickets. You have one, and we have the other half in this basket. In order to be fair about questions, we'll pick 5 raffle tickets out of here. If you hear your number, Laura is right here. Proceed down to Laura. We'll create a line for the questions. If you can't navigate these stairs, that's fine. Laura will take the microphone and come to you. So, and when we get down to just a few tickets here, we'll call out a few more. So, luckily, I have glasses. So they all probably start with 873. So the last 3 numbers of your ticket, 147. Go ahead and line up with Laura right there. Thank you. 236. 228. 144 and 160. ahead and start your question.
And if you wouldn't mind just saying who you are, where you're from, and what brings you here today, it'd be wonderful.
Well, first of all, hi, are we on? First of all, hi, Representative. Welcome to Concord. My name is Karen Maitland. I am from Concord. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm also an election official here in the city. I appreciate the fact that you took an oath to the Constitution, because as an official, we also take an oath, and we take it seriously. One of the things I'd like you to do is to hold your Republican colleagues to that oath, because apparently they are not. My big concern for being here, two things. One, as a retired teacher, I am very concerned about what's happening to the Department of Education. Having that money cut off, the federal government has never honored its full obligation to the schools. If that money is cut off, we, the taxpayers, have to pick up the rest, because those special ed commitments have to be met under the law. My other concern we saw happen here in New Hampshire with town meetings last week, where women were disenfranchised simply because they were married, and their name on their birth certificate did not match their name on their driver's license, and some of them did not get to vote. I've read Project 2025, all 900 plus pages. There is not a thing that has happened in the last 6 weeks that is a surprise to me, because it's all there. That's a playbook. I don't follow sports, but I know good coaches have playbooks, and they follow them. And I'm going to encourage you and the rest of your party to get a playbook together and to start following it, because what I witnessed last week was a fracturing in the party in Congress. Half went one way, half went the other. And I feel like you're being played. You're weak when you're divided. I believe it was Lincoln who said, "United we stand, divided we fall." I'm looking for you and your other colleagues in the Democratic Party to take the helm of the ship and get it back on course.
Well, thank you. Number one, it's rare that you meet a person who does two of the most important things that a person could ever do. I wish I had been your student, but I'm your student now and forever. So thank you. What grade did you, I was going to ask you what grade you taught and where. Well, I wish I had been with you when I was in middle school, because what you just said there is the message that I'm trying to deliver to each and every one of our colleagues. We should all read Project 2025, all 900 plus pages of it. I was saying just a minute ago before I came in here, if you've read it as I have, you can't be surprised. But it is still shocking to see these plans that sounded so radical and that are so at odds with what the people in this room and people across our country are looking for. Look, the attacks on the Department of Education, I got into this race, and I'm glad you mentioned IDEA and Congress's obligations under law. You know, this is one of the things that I will never give up on, because we made obligations under law to fund our public schools at levels that we have never met. This is part of the oath, and this is what I'm going to keep working to do. Thank you. But the truth is that we've got a deeper and more existential challenge here. There is a full-on attack on public education in this country right now, and that is what we are seeing. One of the things I want to say is the reason it's so important to be here together and to be in conversation, the information asymmetries that we're dealing with right now, and just take the Department of Education as an example. We are trying to get ground truth on which federal funding streams, which spigots are being turned off, who's being fired, what the consequences are, and I'm really grateful to our colleagues in the State House. I was over there this afternoon, who are trying to get to the bottom of that by asking the questions of our state officials, our State Commissioner of Education. These are the questions that we're asking to the Federal Department of Education, not for long, but for now. These are the same questions we're asking of our Federal Department of Education, but ultimately we're going to have to hear from you. The information that we're getting that is most accurate and most timely is coming from teachers, from school administrators, from superintendents, and so I just want to urge you all to be in close communication with us on our website, goodlander.house.gov. We have a simple form that we rely on every single day to hear from you what's happening on the ground. And can I just say thank you for being an election worker, for being an election official, because the right to vote is the right from which all of our rights flow. And we're going to have to fight for that right every single day in the days ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Vensky. I've lived in Concord for about the last 25 years. Thank you for being here. I'm nobody special, but I do have a question regarding the unelected official Elon Musk, who's the very picture of a ketamine-addled monkey. He displays clear signs and symptoms consistent with chronic dissociative use, and his decisions have hurt thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. What can be done to expose this person? Thank you.
Craig, thank you. Thank you for your question. Thank you for being here. I work for you, so you're important to me. Look, we have an unelected billionaire who is exercising more power than a single person other than the President of the United States has exercised in a long time. And what's the source of that? I want to say a few things. Number one, on a list of things that I actually do think are shocking that weren't in the text of Project 2025 was a takeover of federal databases and federal payment systems. So this is fueling a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of pain. I hear about it everywhere I go. There is an antidote for this. It's called the Privacy Act of 1974. We've seen this movie before. Look, this country has been through so much, and part of what gives me hope is looking to our history and what we've worked through together before, so many times before. We learned from Watergate. We learned that the people have a right to know if their privacy is being infringed upon. You've got rights under this Constitution, and tonight we have here forms that you can fill out. Under the Privacy Act of 1974, you have a right to know, and we want to assist you in exercising that right to know whether your personal information has been implicated. And so I want you to be sure, and I should say, we have an amazing team here tonight. Our Chief of Staff, Laura Gerard, is here, and I can't see outside the audience here, but we have Don Pollinger, our Director of Constituent Services. Our District Director, Nick Brown, is here. Please, we'll be handing out these forms, and we're happy to assist you in filing this, because this is the most direct way for you to take direct action and to exercise an important right that you have under federal law. What's happening in the White House is being challenged in the courts, and I mentioned the court cases that are underway. More than 100 cases across the country, and most of these cases are really going to core constitutional questions. Are we going to defend the right of the Congress of the United States, the People's House, to write laws, to create federal departments and agencies that cannot be erased with a swipe of a pen or with a single tweet? And the answer that is coming back from the federal court so far is no. And so these are basic lawless acts that have got to be subjected to the rule of law in courts of law. And that's what our country is all about. It's a system of checks and balances and co-equal branches, and that's what we got to be fighting for every single day.
Hello, Representative Goodlander. I'm Daniel McHugh. I'm a first year. I'm Daniel McHugh.
Hi, Danny.
I'm a first-year student at Connecticut College. I'm 18 years old. I'm probably the youngest person in this audience right now. So, as someone who's been around young people in college, I've noticed an anger in young people.
Danny, let's move that up.
young people are frustrated with the lack of response from the Democratic Party, and with I'm sure Chuck Schumer is a great guy, but rolling over and capitulating to Republicans when they are violating our structures of government by disregarding the judicial branch and violating the legislative branch's power of the purse, we shouldn't be rolling over and letting them do whatever the hell they want when our core constitutional rights are being infringed, such as the protester who was deported for protesting at Columbia. Whether or not you agree with their beliefs, you should not have that. Additionally, another thing that's very important to me is the 14th Amendment right for birthright citizenship. My best friend, my closest friend, his parents came here illegally, and he was born here, and he is an American citizen, and I do not want that right to be taken away from him or anyone in the future. My question to you is, how will you stand up to the current government with their willful ignoring of our government and our institutions? I want to know how you will effectively message to young people, everyone really, that this cannot stand. Sorry, like Representative Al Green, I was very enamored at his protest during the joint session of Congress. Because although there has been times for talking in committee meetings about ideas, this is not one of the times. We need a time where we can stand up against this, and I want to know if you can do that.
Danny, first of all, thank you for being here. Are there any other 18-year-olds in the house? Thank you. We need you. We need you. The average age of Congress is way too old. More than 60 years old in the House of Representatives, even older in the Senate. You are the future, and I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for talking about 2 amendments to our Constitution that couldn't be more important. What we're doing here right now today is you're exercising your First Amendment rights, and I'm trying to live up to my First Amendment obligations. You have a right under the First Amendment to petition your government. You have a right to free speech. And the right to vote is the right from which all of our rights flow, but voting is a form of speech. And what we're seeing, the case you mentioned, the Columbia student, this should scare anyone in this country to the bone. We're talking about someone exercising, you may not agree, you may in fact disagree, but especially when you disagree, this is why we have a First Amendment. And this is a case that I'm talking to every single one of my colleagues about, because for anyone who loves this Constitution and who took an oath to support and defend it, this case should chill us to the bone. You talk about the 14th Amendment. You know, the Constitution isn't always crystal clear. In fact, sometimes it's frustratingly unclear. But when it comes to the question of birthright citizenship, our 14th Amendment couldn't be clearer. And I couldn't be prouder that the first case filed in federal court to challenge President Trump's lawless executive order trying to end birthright citizenship was just down the road here in Concord, New Hampshire, in the best state of the United States. And guess what? The courts are enforcing our Constitution, and it's going to take all of us to fight with every tool we've got. But you've just pointed out, Danny, 2 of our most powerful tools, the First and the 14th Amendments. And how do we fight to enforce those? We got to do it. I'm doing it every day in every way I can in Congress. We got to take it to the courts, and we've got to educate our fellow citizens. You know, part of what's so troubling about this moment, and why I'm so glad to be here with you in person, although I wish these lights weren't quite as bright so I could see you all more clearly, is that there's no substitute for showing up, for talking to one another, for educating one another. I could not do this job without this document, and when I'm on the floor of the House of Representatives, I am bringing this document to my colleagues. I am showing them what is in it, because this and you are the key ingredients for how I do my job. So thank you.
Hi. Is it working? So I'm Malia Till. I'm from Concord.
Good to see you. We came in together.
We did. Okay. So my question is really the final question, if you will. What strategy, and I'm not saying let's hope and let's point to the Constitution, I'm saying what is the plan that the Democratic Party have if the President of the United States decides to defy the Supreme Court?
That is the question.
So I'm expecting that part of that solution is going to have to involve Congress, which is the other part of the government.
It involves you too. Because here's the deal. We're all here. I mean, look, we have this document, we have this experiment. It's fragile, and we see its fragility every single day. We've always known it's fragile, but when it's tested in the way that it's being tested now, you see it in all its fragility. But at bottom, what it's about, first of all, how do we expose when a court order is violated? This comes down to just remembering what a court case is. It's a case about real people who are facing real harm from our government. That's why I'm tracking these cases and following these cases so closely, because the stories matter for people to understand this isn't just some court order from above. This is actually a bottom-up case about real people and their lives and how they're being harmed. And so what I'd say to you is we have got to be laser focused. We have got to shine the biggest spotlight that's going to take each and every one of us in this room and people across this country to be following what is happening. You know, what we saw yesterday from President Trump was just, it's a nightmare to see the President of the United States in a disagreement with a federal judge who happens to be one of the finest federal judges in this country because he disagreed with a court order. But you know what gave me some hope yesterday? Reading the statement of the Chief Justice of the United States, who I do not always agree with. In fact, I don't often agree with him. But he is a person whose name is John, much like John Marshall, who he has studied, and he understands the court, he believes in the institution, and there's something to that in this moment. Look, I worked for Merrick Garland when he was nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. I taught constitutional law. I believe that the Supreme Court was stolen from the American people, and I do not say that lightly. I don't say that to be inflammatory. I say that because that's what happened. It took a semester of teaching constitutional law to young people to restore my faith that we've got to work with the hand we're dealt with. We've got to deal with the institutions as they are, but we, the people, have got to stand up and speak out when we are seeing our federal courts, a co-equal branch of government, being defied by a president. And this is not the first time this has happened in American history. Another Chief Justice named John Marshall, saw this happen with another president named Andrew Jackson, who defied his order. This country, we're working through that. We got past that, and we're gonna have to get through these next 4 years. And it's gonna take all of us a commitment to the truth and to using the tools that we've got.
Would you go to jail for
I would put my life on the line for this country every day of the week and any day of the week that you would allow it. If you invite me to a demonstration or a rally, I will be there. April 5th is on my calendar. I'm going to be there. Look, I've never liked a bully, and I will always stand up to bullies on your behalf, and I will never stop working to deliver exactly the message you brought, although I would like for you to come with me to the House floor sometime, because I think they should hear from you. No, I just wanted to ask if so everyone can hear you. Don't apologize, please. I'll stay here all night and answer everyone's questions, but I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. Would you mind just, is that all right? Unless everyone can hear you, but I also, if you just don't mind, we'll keep going through the tickets. But if
She's going to give her a ticket.
My name is Lisa Peroni, and I'm from Hillsborough. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I feel like there is no united strategy from the Democratic Party. I call Washington every day at my lunch hour. I am calling, and I get nothing. I don't get answers either because nobody picks up their phone, so I'm leaving messages, right? But that's my lunch hour. I work full time. I call in the evenings. If I get off before 5, I'm trying to call too. I'm doing my part. I feel let down. There is no fight in the Democratic Party anymore. It's just like, yep, we hear you, we're talking. We want action.
Well, number one, thank you, because that you are giving your time, your energy to this cause makes me feel proud and so responsible to do everything that I can in my power to fight for you. And look, if you want to call a number where someone will pick up, I want to give you our number loud and clear, because we have Dawn, who's here, our Director of Constituent Services. She's amazing. She's at 226-1002. I call all the time. She's always there, and we are always here for you. But it's part of what we've got to be doing together. You know, just to take an example, the $880 billion in cuts to health care that we're up against right now. There are a few senators on the Republican side who could make a difference and who could literally save lives of people across New Hampshire. So at the last town hall I did in Keene, an amazing couple came, Claudia and John. John relies on Medicaid, literally to live his life. Claudia shared the story of what their family is going through. I have shared it with every single one of my colleagues so that they understand that these are real people. What Claudia said when she was standing in a microphone just like the one you're standing at, she said, I want to put a human face to what is happening right now. And my most sacred obligation, the way that I can fight for you, is to bring your voice and your priorities and what matters to you and what's going to allow you to literally make the difference of living or dying. This is what I'm trying to do every single day. And right now, we've got to spread the message and the word that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, take your hands off those programs. And that's the message.
And that's well and good. I mean, but what they're doing is having a ripple effect into the private sector. I work in ed tech. My husband's company is being affected by tariffs. So it's having a ripple effect, and it just feels like we're just like, yeah, we're trying, just keep calling. Well, I am calling. I want to know what the message is, what the strategy is. And it can't just...
You want to talk about tariffs?
It can't just be...
You want to talk about tariffs?
But it can't just be get the Republicans out of office. That is an end goal, not a strategy to get there. We have to have the strategy to get to that point. What are we going to do? Yes, we know we're the minority. We know that. But there has to be a plan of action.
There has to be a plan of action. I couldn't agree more. One of the most important things I learned in the Navy was if you really want to work together and to achieve an objective, sometimes an objective that makes the difference between life and death, when you're trying to pursue a strategy, you have to have a common operating picture. You have to know what's really going on. And that's part of why I'm here, why I want to hear from you. But this is what we're working to do. At the end of the day, I say the right to vote is the most important right. It's the right from which all of our rights flow, because elections have consequences, and we are living with the consequences of this most recent free and fair election. We have election officials who are in here today. Bless you for being a part of another peaceful transfer of power in this country. What I can tell you is I will never rest until we see another peaceful transfer of power in this country. And the stakes couldn't be higher. But if you want to talk about tariffs, I would be happy to do that, because it's something I hear about from people all across this state and across this country every single day. One of the things that was included, one of the provisions that does not get enough attention, that was included in this most recent CR, continuing resolution. You know, tariffs, you read the Declaration of Independence, and I urge you all to do it. It's at the back of my copy of the Constitution. One of the objections that the American people had during the Revolution to the king was that he imposed taxes without their consent. Tariffs are a tax. The president used a provision of law that forever had included an important feature, which is that when tariffs are imposed, it is up to the Congress. It is the Congress's prerogative to call a vote so that there is democratic accountability when these powerful tools are being wielded that are impacting the lives of people across our country. Part of what was eliminated in this CR was the ability of Congress to hold members of Congress accountable for voting on these tariffs. We need people across this country to be lifting up their voices in the way that you have. And I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, and I would never tell you that I did. But what I can tell you is my commitment is clear and will never, ever waver to work with everything I've got and to work with you in any way that you'll work with me to try to bring our country to a better place in every way we can.
And we are working. And I appreciate what you do, but to tag on what the young man before said, I have 3 children in their 20s, and they're very disenfranchised. I mean, truly, they think, what is anybody going to do? What is this country? They're like, why bother? That's the point that they're getting to, which drives me nuts.
The reason to care, 1,017 votes. 1,017 votes saved the Affordable Care Act for the first time. I can give you example after example. In the state of New Hampshire, every vote matters.
I agree, but but that's where we're at, though, and that's why you all need to realize that people are disenfranchised, and the younger generation that we want to step up and move on and take on, they're just like, why? We don't see anything. And I'm going to stop because I could go on and on and on, but well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do some more tickets. After the very patient woman in the white right here.
Thank you.
Number 204, if you have a question. Do you have a blue ticket?
I do. It's number 163.
It's totally up to you.
Thank you. I'm in favor of order.
Okay. 204, if you don't want to speak, then certainly just stay in your seat. 220. Eric. 183 and 240. I feel like I just said that. It was 204 and 240. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Carew. I live in Concord. I raised my family in Concord, and I own a business in Concord.
What's your business?
I'm an accountant, and I'm here during tax season, so it matters. All right, so I wrote it down to make sure I didn't get off track, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm very concerned that the news And a lot of people are talking too much about the legality of the administration's actions. And I'm not undermining how significant those are or how important they are, but we're talking about impoundment interfering with appropriations. We're talking about the powers of the executive branch. All of this will be worked out in courts, and I appreciate what you're doing to do that with the court cases. Here's my biggest concern, and I think this is what unites everybody and is a nonpartisan issue. The rhetoric, in the meantime, that's being used is advancing a very specific social, political, and religious agenda at the expense of civil liberties and civil rights. Whether we're talking about 287G with respect to local law enforcement participating in ICE, whether we are looking at just the keyword searches that DOJ is using to identify what the president deems is waste or fraud or abuse, it is all a violation of civil liberties and civil rights. It is nonpartisan, and that alone should be enough for Republicans and Democrats within the House to step up. And so I want to say that I am here. I have been speaking to others who have said they were uncomfortable speaking loudly about these issues, whether it's a woman's issue, whether it's a trans issue, whether it's a heterosexual, I don't care whose issue it is and whether I agree with them. I will defend those rights, and any violation of a marginalized or minority group is just as much a violation of my rights in the future. It's only a matter of time. So I'm here in my very heterosexual 55-year-old white woman, family of four, to stand up and say, I care, it's not all right, I'm not afraid, and I'm not going to sit down, and I'm not worried if it's going to impact my business or what other people might say. We have to stand up for every single person's rights, and I want to know what you're going to do to elevate the conversation to be discussing that and building bridges around that, instead of battling one court action after another, which is what they're using to divide us.
Well, thank you. Those are American words. Those are American ideas. That is what I am fighting for, and I'm grateful to you for being here, for speaking up, and for being fearless, because that's what it's going to take all of us to be in this moment. You know, we were talking about this earlier. FDR said some wise things, but when he said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, I understand that phrase more deeply than ever before. And so I am relentlessly and fearlessly fighting for every person who I represent. What I love about this job is the chain of command couldn't be clearer. I work for all of you, and I work for all of you, whether you voted for me or not. Whether you can vote or not, I work for you, I represent you, and that's what I'm trying to do in every way I can, every day on this job. And I hear what you're saying about these court cases feeling divisive, because after all, a court is a kind of battlefield. It can be divisive. But taken together, when you see what these cases are doing in concert, they're actually about vindicating the rights, protecting individual people. And you'll notice I didn't use the word impoundment, although it is an important word in our lexicon. I didn't use that word because I want to say it plain. What we're seeing is a weaponization of your taxpayer dollars against our government and the people who serve us, and the taxpayer dollars that are investments that you and everyone, and I and everyone in this room have made in our futures. This is what we're seeing, and this is why we have a system of checks and balances. This is why we have co-equal branches. We live in a democracy, contrary to what we hear day in and day out in ways big and small, and there is no substitute for using every tool, and that is what I'm trying to do. So to your question, how do you exercise your rights? I want to say we have the Privacy Act of 1974. When you talk about the ways in which our own data and our taxpayer dollars are being used against us, you have a right under the Privacy Act of 1974 to know exactly what's going on. And we want to help you exercise that right in every way we can.
Hi, I'm Eric Gallagher, here from Concord, Ward 6, Concord High School, class of 2009. So, yeah, I have some fond memories of previous town halls in this auditorium. I guess the question I'll go with is, why did you vote for the Laken Riley Act?
Well, let me explain how I approach this piece of the job, which is the legislative piece. You know, we're in a Congress right now where, at the outset, you know, I have not had the ability to legislate in the way that we need to be legislating in the future, which is to say, you have committees, you have the ability to amend legislation. Part of my job is voting yes or no on bills as they've been presented, and that is because the Speaker of the House has written rules for this body that are unlike any other rules we've seen before. The least democratic House of Representatives that we've seen in my lifetime and perhaps in anyone in this room's lifetime. The Laken Riley Act, I think, has been misunderstood and mischaracterized, but I understand why people are opposed to it. I really do, and I've heard the arguments. And you're not always going to agree with me, but I'm always going to be straight with you. I voted for this bill because I believe that under a system of the rule of law, there are consequences in our immigration system when you break the law. And I think we have a responsibility to know who's coming in and what's coming in and out of our borders. And I believe that we've got to have a system of border security that is going to keep our country and our communities safe. I've been working my entire career to try to advance immigration reform that's going to really speak to who we are as a people. We are a nation of immigrants. I wouldn't be standing here today if there weren't immigration laws on the books that allowed my great-grandfather to come here at the age of 16, not speaking a word of English. We had an immigration system then that was properly funded and that was suited to meet the moment. That's not what we have today. I want to work towards that goal, and in the meantime, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of attention on partisan bills that are happening in the House of Representatives. There's a bipartisan bill that I'm proud to support, the Dreamer and Promise Act, that is going to work to do exactly that. And when you're in the minority and you're trying to govern and do right by the Constitution and right by the people who I work for, I've got to find common ground where I can, and I've got to vote on the bills as they come before me. So why did you vote? I voted for the Laken Riley Act because I read the legislation. I'll tell you, a lot of my colleagues don't read these bills. They're complicated bills, especially immigration bills. And this bill filled gaps in the law. The bill is about a simple idea, and I think it's been really misconstrued. This bill did not give our immigration enforcement officials new authority. It simply added clarity to existing grounds about what constitutes and can trigger deportation proceedings. So this is a bill that did not touch the due process protections that are vital to this country and to our system of rule of law. It simply clarified the grounds from which a deportation proceeding could be triggered. This is still giving the critical protections of appearing before an immigration judge. And I know many of you in this room have, as I have, been deeply disturbed by the reports of Fabian Schmidt. He's from Nashua, and this is a case where we are working hard to know what the details are. We're in close touch with his family. He has a right to appear before an immigration judge. And I just want to be clear that the Laken Riley Act had nothing to do with this case. But what unifies, what I'm trying to say is that I would never have voted for legislation that in any way undermined the due process protections that every person, citizen or not, deserves in this country. These are core to who we are, and I would never have voted for a bill that undermined those provisions in any way. When I worked at the Justice Department, I saw firsthand how underfunded our immigration courts are, how deeply in need we are of having more immigration judges who can administer the law fairly and in a timely way. We have people waiting for months for simple hearings. So that is what I'm focused on doing. I do. To be charged is, you can't be charged unless there is probable cause. And the question was asked about what this has to do with due process protections. This bill did not change any of the protections that exist, and if it had, I wouldn't have voted for it. I want to be respectful of people who have been waiting patiently to ask a question. I'm happy to discuss this more.
Hi, I'm Bob Sanders, and I worked for you in the Democratic ticket, canvassing, and try to avoid the disaster.
Where are you from, Bob?
Concord.
Thank you.
And I'm also with this group called Not in My Name. It's a group of Jews who are opposed to what's going on in Israel. I asked this question to you while you were... I asked this question way back when you were campaigning, whether you would, stop writing blank checks to Israel. And you said something that what we need to do is flood the area with humanitarian aid. Well, Israel has cut off humanitarian aid again. And it just bombed and killed 500 people. And what would it take for you to say no to Israel?
Congress plays an important role in American foreign policy, and so does everyone in this room, because anyone with a beating heart who sees what's happening right now can't be anything but heartbroken. When you see people who are being denied basic humanitarian assistance, this is wrong. This is not what our country stands for. This is not what any democracy stands for. And so, look, we legislate, and what I want to get back to in Congress is legislating in the normal order, where we have appropriations bills where questions like this can come up and we can make informed decisions and have a real debate and legislate according to the facts, so that the law is actually shaping the course of human events, like basic access to humanitarian assistance, in the way that those dollars should be used. The question, I will look at any legislation, and if you can point me to it, I will look to it. And this is something, look, the way I legislate is you look at the facts, and you look at the law as it is and the law as it should be. And so that is how I would approach this question.
Would you ever vote against aid to Israel? Would there be anything that Israel does that would stop you from voting for more billions of dollars going to weapons that are killing children and women?
Well, right now we have on the books something called the Leahy Act, the Leahy Law, which actually looks directly to whether this is a system that Congress set up, and I think it makes a lot of sense. When independent fact finders, people who are looking at what's happening on the ground neutrally, see that there are violations of international law, this has consequences for U.S. foreign assistance and humanitarian assistance. But I gotta tell you, Bob, what I'm focused on right now is the fact that we're seeing a dismantling of our entire system of foreign assistance, that the U.S. Agency for International Development, which has been the hub of American foreign assistance for our lifetimes, has been under direct assault and attack and has been dismantled. So in the first instance, I believe in the work that these dollars can do, these taxpayer dollars can do for good. And what I'm telling you, my answer to your question is I will always look to the facts and see what can be done.
Bernie Sanders has a resolution that would stop the shipment of arms to Israel.
And I will take a close look at that.
I would prefer a yes or no on that.
Well, I think actually what my job is, respectfully, is to really read the piece of legislation that I vote on. And that is part of what I believe my commitment has got to be to each and every one of you that I know what I'm voting on, that I've read the bills themselves, and that is something I'm always going to do. I do my homework, and I think it's the only way that you can trust that when I'm making a decision, I'm making it in an informed way with good reasons. And so I thank you for mentioning that resolution, and I will take a good look at it.
Hello, Representative. Thank you for coming today. My name is Roland Dubois. I live in Kentucky, and I'm a retired attorney, one of you. I want to share the outrage that our youngest member in the audience expressed, and the woman from Hillsborough, and frustration. This is a lot of chatter. It's a lot of talk. We're talking among ourselves. What is being done? We need someone to mobilize. There's so much anger here. People are ready to do something. Who is going to lead us to do something? Will you? Will you lead us? Will you lead us? Will you tell us what to do? Will you lead us in demonstrations on the street? What will you do?
I will go wherever we can go.
You need to tell us.
And I will.
Lead us, please. Will you?
I will. It is my job, and it's what I'm working to do. The first step to working together is having a dialogue, and actually being in communication with one another. I'll be there on April 5th, and I'll be there before that. I'm showing up, I'm pounding the pavement, I'm going anywhere I can go. And part of why I wanted to be here tonight is what you say and what you ask me to do genuinely changes the way that I'm doing my job. I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to respond and work for you as best I possibly can. I wouldn't have been in Jaffrey, New Hampshire today, sitting with 50 people who are on the cusp of losing life-saving health care if it hadn't been for a woman and a man named Claudia and John who came to a microphone like this and asked me to go there to see firsthand what is at stake. This is how I'm trying to do this job. I'm trying to represent you as best I can, and I want to work with you in every way that you will work with me.
Well, thank you. Let me just say, while I have the microphone, I'm retired from the Environmental Protection Agency. The planned cuts to the Office of Research and Development are going to be devastating. That is the Office of Scientists who look at how much pollutants can be in our water, in our air, upon which all the regulations are based. If that goes, we're toast. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more, and thank you.
And this will be our last question.
Well, I'm happy to stay until everyone's questions are answered.
I'm so excited to be the last question. I'm number 183, which you called. Hello, Senator Reardon. Hello, Representative Goodlander. I am Don Crease. I live right here in Concord. And I work right across the street because I'm the state's consumer advocate. So my job
Oh my goodness.
is advocating on behalf of the state's residential utility customers, and I'm in the midst of fighting a battle to abolish my office advanced by the House Republican caucus. So I don't come out to an event like this without great reluctance, because I try not to talk publicly about issues that I don't really have to confront directly at my office. But as you know, because we've talked about this, I'm also a dad. And I raised a young woman with cystic fibrosis. That is a serious chronic condition. Had I been born with CF, I would be 60 years dead right now. My daughter is 23 and healthy, and the reason that she is healthy is all of this incredible progress that I and my friends at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation have paid for, but it is all built on a bedrock of basic science research. This is similar to the question that you just answered, that was sponsored and paid for and commissioned and overseen by the National Institutes of Health. And so when I see the lunatics and tyrants who have taken over our nation's capital gut the National Institutes of Health, for me, that's the tell that these people aren't just people that I and you have policy disagreements with. These people are acting in the worst possible form of bad faith. And I would like your help in telling me what I should do in response to that. Like you, I'm a lawyer. I am a rule of law guy. to my core. But it seems like we have reached and crossed over a line where the people who are in charge aren't playing by the same rules that the rest of us are playing by. So, Representative Goodlander, I'm such a fan of yours. I need your advice. What do I do? Do I go to Washington, D.C. and chain myself to a fence somewhere? Do I stand outside your office and protest? What do I do, and what do I tell my friends in the cystic fibrosis community to do?
I'm so happy you are here. We have much to discuss about your office, which is so important to our state, and I want to talk to you about that, and I know you're not here in that capacity, and I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, this is an official congressional event, and so
It is an official
I'm happy
event.
to be here in my official capacity.
Well, consumer advocates are an endangered species, and we need to protect you and your office with everything we've got. So I just want to thank you and tell you that you need to tell me how I can help you save the office and the important work that you're doing. Look, when we talk about NIH, it's an acronym to a lot of people, but when I say, please share your story, stand at a microphone like this, help us to tell the story of your family and what you've been through, and how these dollars, which aren't just acronyms, this is not an acronym, this is not just a staid funding stream, this is the difference between life and death for your family. I want to tell your story, and I'm grateful to you for being here and for being willing to share it. I know you're not going to like this answer, so I'm just going to preview for you that this is something that is actively being litigated, the cuts to NIH. This is part of the same basic attack on our federal government, on your taxpayer dollars, which are going to life-saving causes that we learned the hard way. And the way you began your question, you'd be 60 years dead. We learned it the hard way because we've lost too many people, and we've lost now. If we allow these cuts to sustain, what I hear across the board, it's going to be catastrophic. We're going to lose a generation of researchers. We're going to lose a generation of medical professionals who are literally making the difference between life and death for so many of our fellow citizens. So if it comes to the point of chaining ourselves to a fence being the most effective thing we can do, this is well within our First Amendment rights. You know, respectfully, I would say that we've got 3 co-equal branches of government, and we've got a Constitution. I'm not giving up on the Constitution, and I'm not giving up on our First Amendment rights to petition the government, to raise our voices, and I hope that you will still work with me in every way, because I will work with you in any way that you'll work with me.
Thank you. I just want to say I am good with that answer. I'm painfully aware of the fact that you're 6 weeks into this new job of yours, and you have come to Washington in the most extreme set of circumstances. So it must be a real struggle for you, I'm sure, even though you're really smart, to figure out, like, what do I do in this environment, right? So keep at it.
Helping to mobilize people, bringing them to rallies and protests. And the more people protest, the more and more we will leave Congress to fight Trump. 501. They will tell you where to go and how to raise your voices. April 5th is not just in Washington, D.C. It's everywhere. Every place, 12 to 4 at the State House. I hope to see everyone there.
I will be there.
And one of the things that I think that you're hearing, like, a commonality from everyone is bring it
sorry for jumping in, but I think what we're hearing in all these town meetings is the frustration of the American people asking, what do you want us to do? Because we're not seeing that. This past week, I watched Representative, I believe his name was Larson from Connecticut, go after other representatives during a hearing and shout them down. I believe it was a Social Security issue. Righteous anger. I thought the man was going to have a stroke. He was so angry. But he sat there and he basically went back to that old McCarthyism thing of have you no decency? What are you doing? And it turned out that particular committee voted against what was going on. We need to see Congress, or at least the Democrats in Congress, exhibit some raw anger so that those Republicans in Congress who are doing whatever they're doing for whatever reason they're doing, wake up and realize this is not what the American people want. This is not what we need. Yes, we need to go to rallies. Yes, we need to show up. You need to get on 5 calls every day and make those phone calls. You need to write the letters. You need to send the emails. But while we're out here screaming into the void, we need to hear Congress screaming into the void as well. Where you constantly are updating us as to what's going on. I really appreciate that because you are one of the few representatives doing it. I do actually read the other pages. We need to see every single member of Congress start responding. The number of Republican members who aren't even holding town halls because they're afraid of a little righteous anger is abhorrent. You know, why they're getting paid $174,000 a year to be invisible is beyond me. I'm not willing to wait to 26 to primary.
We cannot wait. We cannot wait.
It has to be now.
Capable of waiting.
So if you take anything from this meeting, could you please take, we need direction as to what to do. This young woman in the back room just said we need to show up. Yeah, we all need to do that. It's great that people are here today, but you need to be visible every single day.
We want action.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Thanks.
Stay up there.
Just a minute, we do need to wrap up the formal event, but Representative Goodlander is here to answer any questions of anybody.
I'll stay here all night if you'll stay with me.
So we'll wrap it up and after this question, and then just ask you all to come down here and ask your question.
Why? Why can't we hear it? Keep using the mic so we can hear it.
Let us know if we're going to have to leave at any point, but I'd be happy to stay and answer questions as long as we're allowed to be in here.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming, okay? But you've been saying all the right things, and you keep on saying you want to hear from us. And we're trying to tell you we want to hear from you. That's why you're in the position you're in, okay? 2 things can happen here. There's the National Democratic Committee, there's the Congress, and there's the Senate. But nobody speaks, okay? What we need is 2 things to happen. First thing, you need a rapid response team. Someone to get on TV or YouTube or radio every day to rebuttal something that the idiots in office... We don't have to get the facts and the figures right. We just have to fill the void from when they say it till 3 months later, till the Democrats decide that they're going to go and answer it. Okay? The void gets filled by them, not us. The second thing that needs to happen, you ever hear like fireside chats and stuff? We need somebody to get on once a week or something and talk to the American people and explain to us, hey, we're in trouble here, but don't worry. We're doing something about it, and this is what we need you to do. Why don't you put the call of action for us and say, listen, I need you to be in Washington, D.C. I need you to be in Boston, Massachusetts, and Portland, Oregon. Certain day, certain time, and guess what? If we show up in numbers, that would give you some strength behind the movement. Right? We're in front of the State House, we're going to Washington, D.C., and I don't hear anybody anybody from Congress or the Senate saying, I'll be there. Okay? We need you people to start telling us we're on the same side. How do we help you get it done? Otherwise, we don't need you, and we're going to take over and get it done ourselves. But it's going to take 6, 9, a year and a half to get it done. We need the fire in the belly now. It's Republicans are following orders while the Democrats are following laws. You know, we can't win the battle this way. We're not going to win every fight, but we got to get up every time and keep on swinging. The one chance they get to go on the CR, what happens? We live in New Hampshire. I was so embarrassed that our 2 senators couldn't stand up. And they had 9 people. I'm on your side.
I can tell, and I'm glad to be on your side. What's your name and where are you from?
Frank Arsenault. I'm from Seabrook. I'm not even in your district. I followed you up in Hollis, New Hampshire, when you came and had Jeffries over there. I wanted to know you. I want to know what it's about. I'm trying to figure out why our government's not working.
Well, you just gave me number one. Can I ask you all, the way we can communicate, the way that I can do exactly what you asked me to do, to tell you where to show up, where we can be together, what we can do together, we got to stay in communication. I know this sounds simple, but please sign up for our newsletter. Please follow us. We're trying to communicate on all these platforms. You say fill the void, that's what we're working to do. We're working to fill the void everywhere we can. I spend my days talking to local press, local TV, because I want to reach real people. I don't want to reach Russian bots. I want to reach New Hampshire citizens.
Our time is so valuable, we don't know where to put our energy. We need you to tell you, this is what's going to make a difference. This is the place you need to show up, or you need to make the phone calls, or you need to write the letters. We're doing all of that, but we're not seeing any results. Because you know what? We're going to take something that we could probably eliminate maybe in 3 or 6 months and make it come to a head instead of dragging it out.
Chris Murphy from Connecticut is an amazing person.
Right now, the only one that's really running around is Bernie Sanders, trying to get people mobilized. Everybody can be a Bernie Sanders, but why don't we find one person to speak for us? Thank you.
Hello. My presentation is going to be much more low-key than that. My name is Susan Cragen, and I'm from Concord. And I just wanted to say a couple of things about tariffs. I've always thought money talks, bullshit walks, and we've got a lot of money being thrown around in our government right now. We all know Elon Musk is there because he bought the position. Woo! What you may not know, and what is very important, maybe even more important than that, is that Cantor Fitzgerald contributed $11 million to get our president elected. And their head, Mr. Lutnick, was made our Commerce Secretary as kind of a favor in return. A lot of people know this, okay? Mr. Lutnick is the tariffs king. He's the one that drops the information into our president's ear when and how to manipulate tariffs. And he is on the news today bragging about how he's influencing the stock market. Now, you know that the first thing tariffs do is make the stock market go up and down, because everyone knows exactly what the economic impact is going to be. Okay? So, Mr. Lutnick is on record as bragging that he has information about how the stock market is going to go up and down. And he's using that information at his brokerage firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, and selling the information to other brokerage firms. And I don't think that's right. It's illegal. Well, hello. Like I said, money talks, bullshit walks.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Hoskins. I'm from Concord. I'm 30, and I have a gigantic target on me. I am a young person on disability. I have cerebral palsy, endometriosis. Thanks to Medicare and Medicaid, I outlived my prognosis in August. I am still here. I am terrified that outliving my prognosis will mean nothing. I have gotten so involved. I call you guys every day. Your staffers recognize my voice now. I have been at all the 50-51s at the State House. I actually got to speak at one of them, which was for International Women's Day, which was a great honor. I'm really wondering something very basic after what happened on Friday. Are you still sure of the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer? Because with the schism and both of them kind of going, oh, well, we have a minority. Yes, but as you said, the slimmest minority in who knows how long. A generation. Then if the Republicans can stall with a bigger, like when they're not in the majority, why are we failing to stall as much as they could? I don't feel that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are doing us any favors as Democratic leadership. I want to know if you think that they still have value as leaders or if they should step down.
You know, what I want to say is, I think leadership does matter, but I think what this job is about is actually representing you. So I work for you, and I listen to you, I work for you. We may not always agree, but one thing we definitely agree on, and one thing I want to work for you in every way I possibly can on, is to save the programs that have made it possible for you to be standing here, right here today. And I'm gonna work with anyone who will work with me to get that done. So I am focused on doing the job for you, and I think what I'm hearing tonight is just how much energy, I said it at the beginning, holy anger. It's holy anger that we gotta harness together to get the job done. I think leadership matters, but I think the way this job works is really clear. I work for you, I don't work for Hakeem Jeffries. I respect him, but I don't work for him.
Thank you, because as has been said a bunch tonight, we are looking for leaders to direct our holy anger.
I hear that. And I don't have all the answers right now, but you have my promise. You gotta know I'm not gonna rest, and I want to hear from you directly, and I'm glad to hear your voice and see you now. Thank you for being here.
I'm just going to jump in because we very much promised Concord High that we'd be out of here by 6. They gave us 10 more minutes because the people who are keeping the lights on in this room also have to run a planning meeting, so I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I think we are also holding that up. So we can get through as many people as we can get through.
And I'd be happy
6:10,
to be outside and continue to answer
questions. We'll go to the lobby
questions.
after this once they kick us out of this room. Anyone who wants to stay after 6:10, but we have to be out of this room at 6:10.
Thank you.
I'll be very brief. My name's Jeff Fetter. I'm a psychiatrist. I live in Concord. And usually if I had the ear of a congresswoman, I would be talking about Medicaid because the livelihood of my people and my hospital and my patients' care depends on it. But I want to say something even more important than that to you, which is that having worked in the prison system before, Donald Trump is antisocial. And we are mostly nice people who believe in liberal democracy. And it's hard for us to know how to strategize against someone who is antisocial. And you have to learn how to do it. You've been a lawyer, so maybe you've had to think this way before. But
Definitely need psychiatrists on the team.
I want to say that I've never been a registered Democrat. I've only ever been a Republican and then an independent. And so when I think about people who are outside liberal democracy, My model is Ronald Reagan in the Cold War. And what did he do? Containment. He did not obey in advance. Today, that would mean not confirming people who you believe to be outside the mindset of liberal democracy. Anyone, I know you're not a senator, but like,
I wish I
altogether.
had that power.
The second thing is deterrence, right? We don't have nuclear deterrence in this situation, but what we do have is masses of people, and what we do have is the power of the purse. Just like when the United States sends a destroyer through the Taiwan Strait to show we have freedom of navigation, we are containing, we are deterring. Congress needs to deter. That's the language that an antisocial person understands. And thirdly, black and white moral clarity. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Mr. Trump, follow this Constitution. Say the words very clearly in black and white so that everybody can understand what is at stake and what you're telling him to do. And do it with a throng of people around you on April 5th, if you can, on the State House lawn. Like, you showing up there would be so huge. You know?
I will be there.
And before I just want to say, I'm trying to organize a bit of a resistance-ish movement. It sounds silly to say it that way, but on Signal, Modo.08. Send me a message, Modo, M-O-D-O .08, and I'll send you information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erin Stewart. I live in Concord, and I don't mean to pile on, but it's the looking for leadership. And just, I'm reassured hearing what you have to say today, because like your Blue Sky page is 1992 insipid twaddle. Like, I went here, I talked to these people. There's no leadership on your page. There's no sense that you're fighting for us, just that you're talking to people and you think things are important. We need people to step up. We need people, you keep telling us you're following us. No, we need you to act in a way that we can follow.
I hear you, and I thank you. And I thank you for being here.
My name is Paul Lutz. I'm the presiding minister at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Berlin. You know, Will Rogers said, I'm not a member of any organized party, political party. I'm a Democrat. And it might have been funny when he said it, but it's not funny anymore. I'm also a member of a criminal enterprise. I'm organized crime. Because that's what the president and vice president or co-president Musk has labeled Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities. I also have to do something that I never, ever, ever thought I would have to do. And that was to devise a strategy that if I was in the middle of distributing the Holy Eucharist, what would I do if ICE agents came in the middle of my sanctuary? What do I do? I never thought I would have to do that. Maybe if I was in East Germany in the 1960s, but not here. But yes, that's where we are. You keep mentioning that you work for us, and I appreciate that. I'm still waiting for a reply from the email that I sent your office probably about 8 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, whatever, when I inquired about the data breach and about everyone being concerned about their data being co-opted by Musk and his cronies. Senator Hassan replied within 3 or 4 days. Senator Shaheen replied in 3 or 4 days. I'm still waiting. I don't know what's going on. I appreciate you said they brought the forms today for the 1974 Act. The last thing I'm going to mention is that you did mention about the Laken Riley Act, and I appreciate the fact that you read the law. It's kind of nice that somebody does. But you talked about due process. You do know, first of all, that in New Hampshire, the Attorney General is appointed by the governor, and so that's a partisan position. And you do know that the Laken Riley Act has a portion of it, or part of it, that allows state attorney generals to sue the director of Homeland Security if they think a member of a citizen of their state has been wronged by some wrongdoing, which is another frivolous BS lawsuit. And it just keeps going and going. So we gave them a little tool that they could jab it. I'm just like, I agree with everybody else. It's like, we're too acquiescent. And I don't know what we're going to do except for the fact that we're just going to end up, like the Deutsche Demokratische Republik, the German Democratic Republic in 1960. That's exactly what we're going to end up with. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for being here, sir, and I want to be sure that we catch you before you head out. And I think we've got to, do we have time?
Well, I'm going to say what I want to say. My name is Chris O'Connor. I'm from Concord, although I've lived in Hillsborough and Windsor and Keene and also in Washington, so I've lived around the state. You want some ideas? Here's one. How about getting behind the idea of a national strike? How about getting behind that and not just promoting it? I mean, I realize there's very little you can do and that your lawyerliness needs to approach everything from laws that are being ignored and are going to continue to be ignored. But that's something you could do. You could get behind national boycotts of pro-Trump businesses. How about that? How about national sit-down strikes? How about something that is actually a dynamic action? I yelled at you earlier, are you willing to get arrested? I don't really care if you show up in Concord and make a nice little presence. I mean, if you're not going to say anything meaningful, if you're not going to take aim at the idiots who are destroying this country. And I'll say one last thing. When you said the Democrats have been dealt a bad hand, that means you are part of the problem. Because Democrats have not been dealt a bad hand. 9 years ago, when Barack Obama was elected, we controlled the presidency, the Senate, and the Congress. Only the establishment's unbelievable incompetence and out-of-touch nonsense has led us to this point. So if you think that somebody else is responsible for where we are right now, you're wrong.
Sir, don't misunderstand me. First of all, I want to talk to you more about your idea behind a strike, because I want to use every tool we can. And yes, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a veteran who served our country and who's going to fight with everything I have for this country. It's a country under the rule of law, and that is not a lawyerly idea, that's an American idea. Do not misunderstand me. We weren't passively dealt a hand. We had a free and fair election in this country, and that's what happened. And we saw the peaceful transfer of power, and by the way, where we are right now, I don't think it's the worst case scenario. I think we would have been in a fight for the peaceful transfer of power if Vice President Harris had won fair and square. And these are the stakes that we're up against. I want to work with you, even if you don't agree with me ever or often, but if you will work with me, I will work with you in any way that you'll work with me.
I'm willing to agree with you if you're not going to be just one more backbenching establishment Democrat.
Well, so can everyone hear me? I just want to speak as one of the few young people here.
Tell us your name.
My name's Jason. I'm from Concord. Oh, this good? All right. I just want to address this myth that we need to attract this mythical purple voter. This is the purple state. I've yet to meet someone who just couldn't figure out whether they're voting Kamala or Trump. It's all about turnout. It's been clear every election we've had this century. The thing that wins Democrats' elections is youth turnout. We won in 2022 because youth voters cared about abortion. In 2020 because they were voting against Trump. In 2008 and in 2012 because they liked Barack Obama. Youth vote is what matters. I can tell you, young people are extremely mad about what's going on in Palestine. We do not like what's going on with immigration or the Laken Riley Act. And we want more than just oppose Trump. We need a vision. What is Project 2029? That's what I want to know. Because what are we going to do about housing? Rent makes up over half of most people's income, especially for my age. What about education? For most of us, it's unaffordable. Democrats have no unified message on this. Do we support Medicare for all or don't we? Nobody knows. Do we support decommodifying housing? Nobody knows. Do we support getting big money out of politics? I don't know.
You want to start with housing?
Let's go to housing.
So look, It's the cornerstone of the American dream. The costs have never been higher. I gotta tell you, I've got hope that we're gonna make progress on this because the conversations I have with people at every level of government, people are feeling the pain. Whether you're trying to rent a home, you're trying to buy a home. Here in New Hampshire, the cost of rent up 82%. I was up in the Upper Valley just a few days ago. 82%. That's the same increase in the cost of a single family home. Now, look, this is not a crisis without a culprit. Number one, we've got a pattern that's happening all across the country. Corporate monopolies, private equity firms are buying up single family homes all across this state and across our country. What are they doing? They're doing what monopolists do. They're jacking up costs. They're making life harder for hardworking people. They're making the American dream out of reach. We can do something about this. We can put a clear prohibition, and there's legislation that would do exactly that, that would prevent these pernicious corporate monopolist practices. And that's what I'm fighting for every day. At the same time, we gotta build more homes in the state of New Hampshire.
We do.
We gotta build 60,000 more homes by 2025. We just wanna keep up with pace in the next 5 years, 60,000 homes. So how are we gonna do that? As I hear, tariffs are one of the biggest impediments to the cost of building new homes. I'm hearing it everywhere I go. We've gotta work with everything we've got to increase the supply and to crack down on the pernicious corporate practices that are jacking up the price of the cornerstone of the American dream, having a home.
But you need a movement. You need more. You know, I look at Bernie Sanders
Yeah.
and AOC. They have a movement that's coalesced.
Yeah.
There's, you know, you can look at Tokyo. You can look at Vienna. These cities have great housing. They have public housing. They've decommodified theirs. You know, there needs to be a broader movement, a Democrat equivalent to what MAGA is, because we keep wanting to go back to bipartisanship.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to bipartisanship. I want to move forward, not back.
Well-
and when I see, when I see, you know, Chuck Schumer siding with Republicans, when I see Hakeem Jeffries not able to call out Eric Adams for open corruption, when I see, you know, the Democratic response to the address to the union was just talking about how great Reagan was, I think to myself, what's going on? That, you know, what does this party stand for? Nobody knows. And this is my last little thing. Something I've been thinking about recently is, you know, there was someone who would have been 17 in 2008. They wouldn't have gone to choose Obama. In 2012, they would not have gone to pick the candidate for the Democratic Party because Obama was already there. In 2016, the party put their thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton. We did the same thing in 2020. And in 2024, we didn't even get to vote for our candidate. So we're sitting here wondering, you know, why don't we have leadership? We haven't gone to actually choose who was going to be our leader since 2008. That person would be 37 by the time the next election rolls around. And never once will they have, in a fair, democratic way, been able to choose who leads our party. We can look at Trump in 2016. Did the Republican Party oppose him internally? Yes. But they listened to their base and they supported him. Democrats need to support their own base. You know, Democrats are down 10 points with Democratic voters. The way to win is not winning over these mythical purple voters that don't exist. It's about supporting your own base. It's so embarrassing to go to my Republican family and have them shit-talking Biden. And what am I gonna say? I mean, I didn't want Biden. He is too old. He was, you know what? Even if I like some of his policies, he is not the person I want to be defending. And when your own base can't defend you, how do you expect to win over, you know, undecided voters? It doesn't make any sense. And how did we just discover the internet exists this election? You know, we keep supporting and paying for these loser consultants who have no idea what's going on. I mean, it's baffling. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm really glad you're here. And I hope you don't leave because I think we're getting kicked out of this room.
Yeah.
But thank you. I want to thank you all. I want to let you know I'm going to be right outside and I will be here as long as you'll be here with me. So thank you.